Hi guys, so Lisa from Peaceful Rage or Rageful Peace. As we have said in our previous videos, can be peaceful, controversial, very direct. A lot of times they're straight to the point. So here we go. So there's a few topics online, and some of them are the whole Trump Kamala, watching the politics from the Canadian version of my own opinion and self. In my own opinion, yes, there is no right or wrong really in reality, because there's two people who will do right and will do wrong. There will be good and bad in both the selections that we are looking at. And as the states and our neighbors begin to make a decision. And it's a big decision. It's not a decision just based on just their country, as all these countries are viewing your country. So when you are picking or selecting a leadership, and you're looking at a leadership, especially, let's say, okay, for an example, during a pandemic, and we've got a world crisis right now going on, let's say. So we have your president decide to say, let's put chemicals or bleach or some sort of type of idea like that into our bodies to kill COVID, which, yes, it definitely would have killed COVID. Oh man, no doubt about it. That's your leadership to start. What happened at the Capitol? 6 people lost their lives or something like that. How about talk to the families of those people who were at the Capitol with and whose family members died there? Not to mention, you know, he's resembling his country. And through his own speech had people want to actually go and attack the Capitol. And they did. You know, his criminal matters. And maybe, you know, Kamala is a very good prosecutor. Maybe she's just that good of a person, but no better than Trump. Who knows? You can't say for sure that everybody has always been perfectly saint, and that everybody is going to be perfect, and that all the way as you go through the line, there is, no matter how you look at it, a dirty side of people. Trump runs all his businesses, probably knocked out how many people's homes to build those businesses, right? Because you'd have to clean off all that area, right? Not saying he's a bad man. Had some good choices about, you know, ISIS and all that stuff, and like taking care of those deals. But then you have somebody who's been in politics, somebody who can prosecute, somebody who is understanding the politics, who has been following leaderships and many mentors for years, and can uphold herself in a strong voice. And yes, may need guidance and things, because this is a new step for a whole new era of life now at this point. How we criticize everybody, though, is like, what makes the decisions around our opinions? And you're not going to change those opinions if you're going to say to somebody, oh, Hugo's recovering from a labocotomy or whatever it is, you know, like a bowel thing. Great. And it's kind of funny, but I mean, honestly, so that's the intelligence you're trying to prove for your country, for what you believe in, by making comments like that. Another one, I'm right in the video, and says, oh, his wife's out on a date. And yes, in the past I did go out on a date. We broke up for a bit. Well, according to Hugo, we separated, and we weren't broken up. He was actually quite surprised. He was like, we were, you know, like, he's like, I didn't know what to do with the situation. So he left, and we talked a little bit, but kept arguing. And so then we didn't talk, and I just decided to move on with my life. And so I'm not ashamed to say, like, yeah, I went out on a date. I tried to push myself and say I can move forward. I'm not going to be one of those people or women to sit in my apartment and cry and have to think and be punished or feel punished for any reason and feel guilty and just drown myself. I shouldn't have to do that. I feel like if I should go out and have a social life and want to go out on a date and meet somebody and become friends with them or have a social life, then maybe I should be able to do that and start working on that, because I haven't done that for myself. Sorry guys, there's outside noise as well sometimes. We're still kind of in that summery fall phase right now. So yeah, I'm not ashamed to say, ladies, your man steps out, you can cry, you're going to go through your emotion, everything else, but pick yourself back up. Go on a date. Go swimming. Live your life. Do something for yourself. Explore something you haven't done when you were together. Push yourself for your boundaries. What are your limits? And find out for yourself who you are in that time frame. Those breakups are tough, and some of them, well, put you rock bottom. Literally drag you down and make you feel like just nothing is going to pick up again, or life is never going to pick up again. And it is really hard to push forward and then hit every obstacle along the way. We are a medical family. We didn't start off on the greatest part of our relationship. You know, it's like trying to learn English or understand each other, and we connected, and it was confusing from the beginning because I didn't quite understand everything he was expressing or saying, or everything that was going on in our relationship. We were trying to just understand each other, and then we had our daughter eventually, and right away you're told your child has a terminal diagnosis. That's how we started off as medical parents right away. And some do. Their first child is a medical child. Majority of families do not make it through the first, I think, 7 years, they said, of being a medical family. A lot of families divorce, they separate. It is ugly. It is painful for the children, psychologically damaging for the parents. There isn't a real good support system for medical families. I can read you guys all a statement. It's not really a statement. It was something that was posted on my page publicly, actually. And people don't talk about it. They don't share it. This person was a social worker for children, and a supervisor to boot. And this social worker that was a supervisor, she was promoted and stuff to another place and positions in life. And anyways, a lot of us medical parents are going through many situations. And I know we were on a Trump topic, but we're also on the topic of this channel, our life, I guess. And it's not easy for us to comprehend. It's very difficult as medical parents. It's very difficult to maneuver yourself in your life. I just thought you guys would need to hear this, actually. A lot of me is numb inside myself, right? I have a lot of pain. My daughter diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy type 1. My first daughter. Second child. Then you have your son diagnosed hydrocephalus, Williams syndrome, a combination of two. And we weren't really informed about the heart very much, that they need heart surgery right away, things like that. But I did note that he was starting to get sick and pale, clammy, and sweaty, and cringing when he coughed. He would cringe, and I kept being told I was a hypochondriac. It was all in my head. I was paranoid because it's my daughter. And then when he passed, I was told it was just complex anyways. I lost my crap. Been certified by Alberta Health as an HCA. I mean, I worked and I've trained and I was heading for my LPN, wanting to go for my LPN. My daughter was diagnosed May 22nd, 2008. I was supposed to go to Northern Lakes College. May 28th, 2008, to enroll to school. Single mom. When she was born, her dad wasn't there because he went back to Quebec because he has 3 other kids in Quebec. So he wasn't there when she was born. So the only parent on the birth certificate is myself. As of now, I'm the only person as a legal guardian for this child, technically, by law. Because he wasn't there to put his name on the birth certificate. And for 7 months as a medical mom, single mom, I did my research, took care of my son best I could with my family's help, my mom, my sister, my dad. Did my research very quickly. Found out I'm against a time clock, that there is things you can do. You can be proactive. There is proactive care. There was no cure treatment. Now there is a treatment. There's different options of treatments now. Unfortunately, my daughter, her muscles, just waste away with SMA. And she had progression of that. So, I mean, as you give the treatment now, it will help her with small things, but big things too. So the big thing that it helps her with is when she gets sick. Before, she would be in the hospital for 4 to 6 months at least. And then she would turn into a pneumonia or something else that she would catch in the hospital. And so now she catches a cold and she surpasses it better than I do. She'll be sick for a week and I'll be sick for 3 weeks. My immune system's also not as strong as hers, or I don't know, she's stronger. Or sorry, I shouldn't say not as strong, but we both have low immune systems. And so she surpasses them better than I do now, which is before we would sit there and I'd be struggling and she would still be struggling for months after. So that treatment does help. It helps with how she's feeling overall. It is giving her some strength. Very, very little, but some. But you got to imagine that's 10 years of loss of muscle, and then all of a sudden, or 11 years, and you start receiving treatment after that. Her body's just learning that far in her stage of her life. My son passed from he ended up having a viral pneumonia that attacked his heart, and we lost him. He was declared brain dead on Father's Day, actually. I was told I was a hypochondriac and paranoid. And he had all those symptoms. And I kept bringing him in, and they told me if I kept bringing him in, I was going to get locked up. I was going crazy. And so his dad and I got in a big argument because his dad took him in, and he's like, Lisa, like, you don't understand. They are starting to talk about, like, locking you up now because you are crazy. And I slept in my son's room that night. And the next day we ambulanced him out. He was at 86% oxygen and on the end of his sister's bed. And we had oxygen on him already by the time the fire department came, and he was 86% oxygen. 86%. My bio dad died a month after. I couldn't even get a phone call from no one to just say, your dad passed away. Not one person could at least give me that respect. I talked to him all the time. I called him all the time. And he called me, he would check in. And not one person could say, your dad, your biological father is gone. I couldn't even get that respect. I found out when I called and the phone line was dead, that he wasn't there. And I looked up online and there was this obituary online. My dad, the last thing he told me was begging me to bring my daughter to Vancouver. She'll get better care there. I could go to art school. And he was begging me, please bring her back here. Bring her to Vancouver. And I just wanted to cry, and I didn't tell him I was pregnant with my son at that time. I should have. I wanted to. But I didn't want to stress him out. Then I lose my dad, stepdad, who raised me 2.5 years later in front of my kids in the living room. He stood up, dropped in my hands in front of my kids and our home care nurse, the management of it. She was there with us all day long. And I've been fighting for almost 17 years for a justified way for families to be justified. For my son to have purpose. Not just complex anyways. My daughter's breathing. They did a procedure without our parental consent. I begged him not to do this. I said, look, you guys, if you do this, it's a positional leak. You will create a bigger problem. And they went ahead and did it without her consent anyways, and she's still in my consental guardianship. This procedure, when you put the balloon in, can create bigger leaks. And those bigger leaks, you cannot fix them. And you cannot reverse this procedure. Which means you'll have to keep upsizing her trach. And if you keep upsizing her trach, it could get to a point that it gets too big, that it could touch your heart, too long. That you can never get the hole fixed because it'll just positional leak. And they go and they try to cuff my child against our will. Not listening to us, knowing our reasons. So last week, my child had an incident where she dropped to 68%. They couldn't figure out where this hissing sound was coming from. Hissing sound, I found out for Saturday yesterday, sitting beside my child, and I kept saying, she's got a pretty big leak going on here. We should probably be calling somebody to re-inflate it properly, and you guys, and are supposed to be aware of this and pay attention to this. And sitting there, eventually her alarm starts going off on her vent, or high volume, which means there's a leak. She's not getting the full pressure of breathing at this point. She's not getting all the pressure she's supposed to be getting. High volume not a disconnection. It's a high volume leak. And I looked at the worker, support worker, third party, said, how is this in the best interest of my child at this point? Because it's what you use in court all the time, all of you. The best interest of. A doctor's oath to do no harm, to protect and to serve. Cheaper in the ditches. Remember that for somebody who's been a suicidal survivor. Shoves pills in her face all day long is what you get told. It's a mental health training our officers have. Kept bruised because of someone else from head to toe. Your head slammed into someone else's bed by 6 security guards. People don't even understand your medical record, inject you with whatever, strap you to your bed because you ask for your cell phone back that you voluntarily give back. When you go there for suicidal help and depression. And that was the result of it. It's a long story. He goes like, take her phone away. She's like her mom, and they took my phone away, and they said they would give it back to me the next day, and they didn't. Then the next day comes, and he goes like, well, I only thought they were going to take it away for a night. And so when he asked for my phone back, him and the doctor got into an argument. Security got called, and they met me at the front of the doorway, and it's a 2-bedroom place, and I had my hands up on my head, stressed out. Told them I was calm. They're like, we're going to inject you with something. We're going to inject you. And I'm like, there was no reason for them to inject me with anything at all. I wasn't freaking out. I wasn't hitting things. I wasn't hurting anyone. I was just like this, like, holy crap. I'm just, the stress was so much. And forced me to the back of the room, up against the wall, and right away grabbed my left arm. Didn't touch any of them. Didn't do nothing to no one. Wasn't harming anybody. Wasn't harming myself. Doing nothing. And they slammed me to the bathroom floor, hip first, on the right side. Now I got hip problems on my right side of my hip. Picked me up, slammed me into my roommate's bed head first, right where I had my brain bleed. Picked me up again and strapped me to the bed. Leave me there for an hour and a half. And I said to one of the guys, I said, would you ever do this to your own mother? And eventually started wiping my face and trying to figure out what to do. Like, he knew he couldn't do anything, and so he was doing the best he could do at whatever he thought he could do at this point. Felt hopeless as well. Doesn't speak up. Just allowed it to be okay. I was supposed to be knocked out at this point. I was injected in there, like, shocked. I'm not knocked out at this point. I'm swearing like you wouldn't believe. Every time they asked me, how are you doing, I told them how I felt personally. Strongly opinionated on that one. All the things that we've gone through with our children as medical parents. And it's not just as what we've gone through as medical parents, but in the whole process itself. Having a brain bleed and being told I'm being a big baby, it's all in my head. It's just a simple migraine. I ended up with psychological damage over that. Sitting there being transferred to the next hospital, trying to figure out, am I really having a brain bleed? I drove Hugo crazy. Am I really having a brain bleed? I kept asking him, did I really have a brain? Are you sure it's not just a migraine? Like, I kept asking him, and then I kept yelling at myself or freaking out or being angry because I can't tolerate this pain. I'm just stupid. Have these nurses tell you that's just a simple migraine. It's no big deal. Stop being such a hypochondriac, such a baby, and going on in the hallway about it. Professionals, gray nuns, good job. Sometimes I call them the candy dish. You sit there and you're in the patient's room and you see them and you're just waiting to be called for your next place to go for your result, and they come out with giving everybody painkillers, sitting in the chair, and you're like, wow, this is how it's done. Opioid crisis. I wonder why. Because we're not managing it properly. Everybody's sitting in the chair and, Oh, here we got pain, and literally going around and handing out everybody painkillers. Go to the hospital. It's not always just the fact that you have pain. So anyways, as a medical mom, you advocate for your child a lot. We go through a lot. Our relationship gets beaten up. And I mean, it's brutal. It's brutal. Your daughter gets you come into the hospital at 8 a.m. You look at your child. Your hands are full with your bags in your hands. And her face is beet red. Her face is purple. And she's crying. And her heart rate's 145. And you look at the nurse and you say, what's wrong with my child? Why is she crying? Nothing's wrong with your child. Something's wrong with her. Look at her heart rate. Look at her face. And you're pointing this out while you got your hands full. Standing by there, you're looking at your child. You're confused of what's going on. Safe place. Gets up, runs to the charge nurse. Next thing you know, you got 3 other charge nurses in your face. You've got about 3 to 4 now, all in your face, telling you you're crazy. You're upsetting your child. So they call their child's dad. He comes from work, the only bread maker you have in your family. Take a day off work. Convince them you're crazy all day long. This is 14 hours this happened. Everybody, you're crazy in the head, and everybody's trying to figure out what they're going to do with you, and she needs something done, and Hugo, you're going to have to take the kid, and blah, 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 and she's crazy. Playing on our relationship at this time, in an early stage of our relationship of life. One nurse believed me at 7 p.m. shift change. And I still remember her face staring at me saying, Lisa, I believe you. You have no idea how weak you get at that point. She said, go home. I'll call the doctors. I went home and she called the doctor. Had my daughter looked at eventually. Turned out she had a buckle fracture in her right femur and 2 split fractures. "14 hours with an untreated femur. Her cough assist to assist coughing that all the children with spinal muscular atrophy need in their proactive care was held from the children's safe place. It was sent by Muscular Dystrophy because that's where we were staying at the time. Because I lived up north. I literally let go of everything, lost everything. Just like it was gone. Anyway, my house, I had a mortgage. Everything I worked for. Excellent credit. Mowed my own lawn, shoveled my own snow. I worked my own jobs. I worked in long-term care, group home. I worked hard. And then my daughter got ill. And I took care of her. Took it on. And the hospital, that's supposed to be a safe place for our kids, held her cough assist for 2 years on their shelf, to a point where we had to get Muscular Dystrophy involved, and they got a letter from their lawyer and wrote that letter to our hospital saying that they were withholding our daughter's personal equipment, her personal property, and that they need to return this property that has been specifically donated to her for her needs and her medical needs. I had to learn how to cough with my hand anyways. And the stories go on. They don't stop. It's one after another. The stress. Then lying to me about how my child is feeling. So I don't even know when I call, is she really being okay? Because when I've called, oh, she's perfectly fine. Yeah, well, not what the other company told me about half an hour ago, 15 minutes ago, or just now. I got off the phone because I called you right away because, yeah, I'm a pissed mama. We're going to go on about this. Like, see, supervisor for children. Downtown. A lot of people don't realize that we don't speak up enough. We don't speak volumes enough. We don't say that this is enough. This has to stop for Not just my family, but for other families. And when I say that, when you have somebody that was a social worker, a supervisor, providing safety for children, medical moms, I'll read what she wrote. Because, in honesty, it was posted on my Facebook on a public comment. And in all honesty, we're all struggling. There's a lot of families that struggle. And we don't, in my opinion, get hurt enough. And this is the psychological damage and trauma we have to heal from and fight to heal from. When you've already battled so much. Yes, my family lost a lot. I ended up with cancer, then you go through a brain bleed, and that brain bleed finished my family completely at that point in time. But when a mom feels like this, medical mom, I'm going to read it now. Lisa, oh, I hear you. Friends who have dealt with it for a time, event, or had a child with cancer has simply loved the Stollery and spoke highly of it. I wish I could share those same sentiments. But instead, I have to think of all the times I have been judged. Left in tears. Felt like a burden. Try being a suicidal survivor and feel that emotion. Had a social worker come talk to me, been viewed as difficult due to advocating for my daughter, been demeaned, been ignored, etc., etc. I know you know what I'm talking about because it's something that only medical mothers would know. I love this part. A safe place. I gotta reread that. A place that should have been a safe place further led to trauma for me. Recently, my co-worker left to be a social worker at the Stollery, and I had a long talk with her about what to do, not to do, and the need as a medical parent to advocate, and that it shouldn't change the treatment you or your child gets. I couldn't have had someone say it better myself. I think of all the times that I have been judged, left in tears, felt like a burden, had a social worker come talk to me, been viewed as difficult due to advocating for my daughter. Sorry guys, Hugo just walked in because the boys were working on my vehicle. But again, like I'm saying, these are serious matters. And for when someone has to feel that way, that is a person that has given safe place for children. Says volumes to what is going on and what we are ignoring and turning our heads on. The criteria of what we're doing for our own humanity and ignoring in our own process of what we see in front of us. It's there. And it's not just me saying it. So yeah, I will clarify some of those things. That yes, there's going to be ups and downs, and it's going to be peaceful, and we're going to be direct, and some days are going to be really darn good. Some days are going to be really darn hard. Right now, we're going through a very big, difficult process right now where my child's life is literally at a massive risk. And this was due to people who took her without the medical understanding or knowledge or even education of her, and just randomly did whatever they wanted to her. And she was sitting there without her parents, having all this stuff done to her, things that she was saying no to, even medications that she didn't want. They were giving her morphine, and then we were like, do you guys even ask her? And that's when things started coming to light. Did you ask my daughter? Oh. And then when they asked her, she was saying no. Communication. And that's one of the biggest problems that we have when it comes to the care of people. Another big problem is we won't tell people what we are doing for them. We won't express what we are doing for them. So I will give you an example. I had somebody who flooded their bathroom one day, and I was working long-term care. And they said, I'm sorry for all the problems. I didn't want this to happen on on your shift. And he's like, you've done everything. You've been so good for me. And he's like, you always tell me about everything. And he goes, I'm not aggressive. I just don't understand what's going on in this place. And he started expressing himself. It was deemed as aggressive. So he started expressing to me that the reason why he hit the other people was because he didn't know what the contraption was. They just started grabbing him and pulling him and putting him on this contraption. He had no idea what it was. Never seen it before in his life. And it just realized, it struck a light bulb. Oh my gosh. This is why we're having behaviors. He was terrified. He didn't know what a stand-up lift was. He was absolutely mortified, terrified. He had no idea what this metal contraption was for him, what they were putting him on, what they were doing. So they just, didn't explain it to him. So he got aggressive. He did hit somebody. And then off to a center, he was gone, deemed as aggressive. And you try to express to people, look, it was your error, but they don't want to accept it and acknowledge that error. So it gets swept under the carpet. Just as what's been happening with my daughter. Everybody's like, why have you guys not gotten her back yet? Or gotten your... One of the problems why we haven't gotten our kids back, they changed the files. This is our taxpayers' dollars money. So every time they change our file to a new... So we went from Southside to Shore Park to Fort Saskatchewan to... Oh God, I don't know. So we just keep getting switched. And so every time they start our file with, let's say from when we went from the south side to Shore Park, they start our file brand new. So everything that was collected before and was not presented to the courts, but the facts are there because they select and choose. So they don't tell the courts why my daughter had an aspirated pneumonia. Or what an aspirated pneumonia is. Oh, she was sick with a pneumonia, Judge. Oh, okay. Tell you the difference between an aspirated pneumonia and a pneumonia. Aspirated pneumonia has water in the lungs. My daughter drowned in both her lungs because they didn't realize they're supposed to cough her and do chest physio and suction her the amount that we do and how we suction her. Oh, I wasn't aware of that. I'm so sorry. Tell that to my daughter who's got the chest tube in her chest now. Drain her lung. Dropping the canister on the ground continuously. Oh, we have to take her to the OR. Her tube's not working. Oh, could that be a possible airlock? I don't know. Keep dropping the canister on the ground. Let's see it happen again. Oh, they did it again. Oh my gosh, she went down again. Oh, is that a possibility of an airlock? And we finally get a nurse that says, oh, yeah, that could be an airlock. Yeah, if you drop it on the ground, it can be an airlock. Okay, so you guys keep dropping this on the ground, which I've seen in front of our worker, social worker, who comes in with me as a third party. And she has to go in down to the OR after because her tube's not working. Creating more work for each other, not paying attention. Creating more for our patients. Common sense. It's not complex. And I'm so sick of people saying it's complex. And I'm so sick of medical parents supporting this idea because our children are not complex. Because, honey, I'm going to tell you, you got it all down and packed down without a degree. You as a medical mom. Me as a medical mom. I learned how to do an IV without a degree. I learned how to do feeding tubes without a degree. I learned how to run a vent without a degree. I learned how to take care of my child, all her needs, and see that it's common sense for her needs and not laziness or negligence or malpractice. I said it, malpractice. Instead of owning up to it, they will make a list of what the parents are. Nasty, yelling, mental. Doesn't want to talk to the other family. Talk to another family that taps you on the shoulder and says, we've been told you don't want to talk to us. What? We were told that you didn't want to talk to us. So not giving the community support for SMA families either. Playing the families against each other. When you're supposed to be a supportive hospital that brings doctors from all over the world for all kinds of kids. I lost my home. I lost my kids. Hugo and I were fighting. We had arguments. If you watch Take Care of Mia, a lot of tension arises. We're in a blended family. His ex would call and, oh, she doesn't want you to, she doesn't like this. You're trying to move forward. Well, that's not my problem if she doesn't like that I have a It Works company or so on, and so things people don't realize put stress into our relationship. The lien for his child support, because yes, we got to a point where we couldn't pay the child support. So they put a lien on my daughter's disability van, and we ended up losing the disability van. A child passed away in my daughter's room. And once I realized, because they didn't tell me when I went to see my child that this had happened. So when I went to go see my child, I could see you can tell my daughter, you can see she expresses herself very well. And I could see she was hyper and she was trying to tell me something about her roommate. I was like, oh, did your roommate go on a holiday? Was she gone away for the day? Oh, and that's good that she got to get out and go. And my daughter's looking at me like I'm freaking nuts. So I go and I leave my visit, go home, and they must have had a discussion because on my way home, I get a phone call that this child passed away the night before in my child's room. My child was there, awake and alert. And she couldn't settle that whole week. And we weren't getting taxi services or anything like that. So we ended up losing our van. We tried to go. He didn't have his license because of the child support. And yes, here in Alberta, they can go to Quebec, all the way to Quebec, and they can ding you for child support. And here in Alberta, the laws are, you can go to jail if you don't pay your child support. You can go, you lose your license, you get liens on your vans, your vehicles. And some people in Quebec don't believe it. It is true. So because of that, we ended up having a lien against my child's disability van. We drove it. He didn't have a license and we didn't have registration on it because it wasn't under my name. We did fundraising for it, everything else, and lost the van. Went into compound and of course we couldn't get it out. From there, everything has just been a struggle. We were in a 20-foot trailer. This place was available for over 2 years. And I finally get into it and they're like, oh yeah, it's been available for so long. There's a place available since December. The guy passed away in December and it's still available. So that goes to show, and we've got people on the streets that are homeless right now. It goes to show how quick our programs are, right? How well we are to establish and get people into housing. Because there's actually a few of these like that here. So 8 months I spent in a 20-foot trailer. That trailer is now trashed. So I've lost that as well. on top of all that stuff, and you just go through all this stuff, and you just keep hitting rock bottom, your relationship, you can imagine. And then you've got other ordeals you deal with in your life, like my mom and everybody else, right? And everybody's inputs, but nobody is really truly there to go through all the steps that you're going through and everything you're facing and saying it's going to be okay. You're up against so much, and I feel I lost some trust values between me and Hugo in our relationship, which is something that we work on, because I have to start differentiating the goods, the bads, what is to fight for in our life, and what we can establish. Whether, like, we're both just trying to figure ourselves out right now. We're both trying to figure out a good line, whether we stay together or not stay together, at least put a line where we can actually collaborate well for our daughters, and do what we can good from here, and collaborate at least to a good place. Not, just for us as well, ourselves. I do go to group therapy that was suggested by a mother at a courthouse. So almost 2 years into all this, and finally I get a suggestion. I think it was a year later. Finally, this mom, not even a social worker, has said, look, this is what you guys can get help with. This is the programs we can help you with. Here, we'll get you into animal therapy. We'll get you into this. Like, I asked for animal therapy and all this stuff. They've provided it for my youngest. And I said, well, even I'll take that if you guys can offer it. And there was nothing that they would accept. And it was like to a point where I had to really push and fight to get into this group. And I've never been so thankful. It's an amazing group. It literally is my highlight every week. And again, like I say, you are going to go through ups, you're going to go through downs, and people can be critical, and they can be judgmental. And at the same time, people can be understanding because they know what you're going through. But I'm just tired of sitting back, and people are like, go through the due process, go through the due process. Oh my God, been through so many people. We call patient relations, you write the health of prime minister, you go to your social workers, you go to meeting after meeting, and people after people, and board after board. But it could never be said better. I think of all the times that I have been judged, left in tears, felt like a burden. Had a social worker come talk to me, been viewed as difficult due to advocating for my daughter. I love that part because I'm constantly being written down as nasty every time I advocate for my child. The other child, you hear nothing. There's no advocating, no fighting. Lisa, what do you want? I want her to have this and this and this and this and this because I know she has these abilities. And I listed stuff off of ideas because I really would like to see her succeed and thrive in what she has amazing talents for. And that has been accomplished. But she's missing her family on the outside of things while we are sitting here having a political war, basically, right now, is what it is. And my child is being used against us. And if you look at it in reality over this political war that we have been fighting for 17 years, by saying this is wrong, this is damaging, this is trauma to our families, this has been trauma to others even. And it needs to be recognized. We need to start recognizing these actions. The actions when we work so hard as a medical family to protect and to serve and to do no harm to our child. And you turn around and someone goes and does a procedure that has been your biggest worry of ever happening because a positional leak cannot be fixed through a cuff trach like that. And it was made very clear to us the reasons why. They went and did it anyway. All those years of advocating and all those years of fighting for your child and all those years of being exhausted and drained. And it's not because your child has a diagnosis and because you're doing their medical care all the time. You're drained and you're tired because of everything you have to advocate for, everything you have to fight for. I wish I could tell you guys her name right now, maybe in my past videos. If you Google search my daughter's name, you can see I had to actually fight for her rights of oxygen because they want to send me home without oxygen even. So then when we got her approved for it, 2 nurses were crying, standing there in a room, 2 RNs, certified nurses, standing at the end of my daughter's bedside while we have 2 minutes that she has to be below, I think, 86 or something or percent for 2 minutes to qualify. You have to let your child suffer to qualify for oxygen, by the way. So you got to let her suffer for 2 minutes to qualify for oxygen. These nurses start crying and start screaming, Hugo, do something. And Hugo's like, I don't remember what to do. I absolutely forgot. Sorry. I don't know. He's like, I'm having a panic. And they start crying even worse. They're like, grab the bag or do something. And I'm going to tell you guys a little secret in that process. He modified the toe probe a little bit. And what they didn't do as professionals was look at my daughter's face. Something that the doctor was so always telling me, Lisa, look at her face. Look at her face. They did not look at her face, which is why I didn't panic in the room. I watched the whole thing unfold. I didn't panic, and I stood there looking at the nurses like, are you for real? You guys panicked. You didn't even respond. What you're trained for, certified for. So anyways, when all was said and done, they go and they get the other charge nurse. The other charge nurse, we know her really well. She's an amazing charge nurse. She's an amazing nurse altogether. Knows her family really well, and I'll give her the high honor of respect. Walks right up to Hugo, up to his face, and she's like, why didn't you do anything, Hugo? And he's like, oh, I forgot. I didn't know what to do. She looked at him and she goes, you're an asshole. And I never felt more relieved of such honesty before from someone for a change. It was like relief, like, yeah, that was an asshole move, but it was a relief that they were able to be honest about it. And been amazing with our family. She was actually the one when our daughter was taken to the hospital not so long ago and called us and said, and we called her, they called her, something anyways, and she got on the phone. She was right on the phone. We stayed on the phone with her. We talked her through every single step of what they needed to do for my child. And everything went well. We worked really well as a team together. All of us did. So she stayed on the phone with us, the RTs, and I got to give them credential for that night. It was amazing. It was amazing teamwork, and that's what families and the nurses and staff should be. Team like that. So we worked well, everything synchronized. We were really good. The week before, don't even get a phone call about my daughter. Don't even know that she dropped. Go see her. Come home, find out right before therapy. Sunday, go for coffee. Yeah, I should give him a little faith. Little trust. No, it's 11 o'clock. I'm not going to call. If anything's wrong, they'll call. 11:25. Sun shining on you and going for your mocha. Sorry, I don't drink coffee, guys. I'm kind of there, I guess. And you get a phone call from a company at 11:25 from an incident that happened at 7:30 a.m. Oh, we're wondering if we can, which RN was there at what time. What do you mean? Well, we need details. What do you mean you need details? For what? Well, for the incident that happened this morning. Well, no, the incident happened last week. So there was a big confusion in this conversation at this point, right? No. The one that happened this morning. I'm sure my notes say this morning. No, there was one on Monday. So there was a bit of an argument there. And sure enough, the lady was right. But she needed dates. She needed notes to when the RN stepped in, to what the RN was initially doing. And these are legal documents. Biggest problem that we're having in our court system right now. And I apologize. I'm going to get in big trouble because I use that word. My daughter's life's on the line, and we're in the best interest of my child's life, right? Amazing how it goes. So yes, and I use the word, and now I've lost track of my, since I have my brain bleed, I get thrown off. I can be right on track of my subject and I've completely gone out my brain, and I don't remember absolutely anything that I was talking about 2 minutes ago. So that flew out my brain. I do remember I said the word, and yeah. And I know we were on the lines of all of the systems. So yeah, that's part of the fun of my brain functionality from the brain bleed. But in all reality, I do say that that's okay. But unfortunately, what has been happening is we are not giving the facts. And I guess I remember we were talking about charting. We're not giving the facts. Oh, she had an aspirated pneumonia because we didn't realize her care, Your Honor. We didn't know she needed all that, Your Honor. How about we start there? And then ask why is Mom and Dad so pissed at this point? Because at this point right now, the whole case has been misled, which means they've misled the courts due to the negligence of missing facts, which their lawyer even stated there is missing facts that we didn't present to the court, Your Honor. But it's never been taken into huge consideration. What do you mean there's missing facts? Like, you know what I mean? The questions are not asked. I'm sitting there painting beside my daughter. We brought up the fact that they take my daughter with a non-portable suction machine. We bring up another fact that my daughter's other bedside suction machine is not broken. It's just that you guys need to change the filter. And they're like, eventually when they realized what we were saying and we experimented, it's actually a video that shows, I have got a video to show all that. So when you take the filter out and it turns black, you got to change that filter because nothing will go through it. So then anyways, they're like, we don't have a filter for that right now. We'd have to order that from Medigas. So you have my daughter, you have her life-saving equipment and devices. Her filter's not working, so now you have to order that, and my daughter's going to have to wait for suctioning in the meantime? No wonder they drowned. There's a lot that needs to be questioned. I've worked in the Alberta healthcare system since I was about 19. There's a lot that people surpass and ignore and accept. But I can't accept this. I wish I could share those same sentiments, but instead I think of all the times I have been judged, left in tears, felt like a burden. They couldn't have said this themselves better. It couldn't have been written better. But there's not enough of us saying so or speaking out enough, because every direction you turn to, they shut you down so that you don't get heard. Your voice isn't heard. So then you do have to heal from the trauma. You have to go to counseling. You have to take the pills. You have to accept you're crazy. Deemed, belittled, degraded, demeaned, not heard at all in a safe place for our kids, the best interest of. And this is what they use and retaliate with us in that process. I've had a social worker. They broke me down pretty bad. I realized they set her completely up. She was begging me to be this person and that I had to be specifically just like this. And she was in a panic. And I'm like, my child shouldn't be begging me because she wants to go home so bad. Please, Mom, just do what they say. Just be like I'm not going to be Martha Stewart, guys. Come on. This isn't how we should be treating families. We shouldn't be bribing the kids and forcing them, panicking them, and trying to, you need to be working with the families. We need to be finding the problems and have solutions for our families. And yes, they're broken, but they're broken for a reason, because we haven't found a resolution to try to help fix our families. Maybe one parent will eventually want help. Maybe both won't. Maybe both will. But we're not trying enough, and we're not being hurt enough. We're exhausting parents, actually, to a point they give up. And then many of those kids, I can tell you why there's no parent in that building that advocates for their child in that building right now. Because I all came in there that day. I had 3 of them while I'm painting with my daughter come up in my face. And the first thing they said was, no parent ever complains about the facility. And no parent ever says anything. And then she stomped her foot. And I was like, whoa, 3 of them up in my face while I'm sitting with my child. Shortly after, I spoke up about them transporting my child with a non-portable suction machine and the fact that they took her from my home and took the wrong machine without even looking to see what they were taking. Not even to sit with us as parents and to make a good plan that would be safe for our child. They bruised her on the chest on her first transportation. And that bruise from the chest, the doctor actually, the pediatrician who knows me and my family, pulled me aside right away and says, Lisa, I got pictures. But they're going to put her on the spot. They're going to put her on the spot. Do you think she'll be honest and say, she pulled me aside, made me aware of it. And they didn't like that. I could see it on their faces. And I think it was 2.5 weeks later, maybe a little bit longer, my daughter ended up out with an aspirated pneumonia. Transporting a child with floppy tone, no knowledge, no medical knowledge, no medical awareness, no medical lawyer to represent my child and her medical needs properly. They fractured her bone again. Her femur, right leg again. Call me. Oh, we're treating her for a blood clot. Okay. And I says to them, have you even looked at her x-rays properly? Did you even read them right? She's got thinning bone. Oh. When your bones are thin, it's harder to read x-rays, right? You gotta get a phone call back. Oh, we read the x-rays properly. She's got a fracture. Oh, and blood coming out from where we broke, the fracture of the femur. So it's not a blood clot. So you've been treating my daughter for a blood clot. Mistreating her without looking at her x-rays properly. And as medical parents, I don't think we get enough recognition for everything that we acknowledge and everything that we do and everything that we advocate for and everything that we understand truly for our child. Because in all honesty, our child wouldn't be at this point in life without us. So I just want to give you guys a bit of food for thought when it comes to your family member. And this is senior care too. Go into a senior home. How often do you guys all go see your grandparents? What, Christmas? Don't mean to be rude, but I worked in long-term care. Those people wait for someone every day. They sit there. It's lonely. And we're the only family they have, the only voice they have. And if no one's there to speak up for something that they need or advocate or something that is happening. I did see a family member actually speak up. Actually, I was up north and they took her personal information, faxed it throughout Peace Country Health and said that basically she was crazy. With her personal information on there, phone number, everything, her address. Faxed all over Peace Country Health like that. My mom's actually friends with her to this day. She wasn't wrong in what she was saying. She wasn't hurt either, but got deemed. So every time I think about what we're going to do, what's our next step in life? What are our choices going to be? What are we going to do for the next phase? What can I do to make a change? And so far, this is my step. And whether take that step with me or don't at all, and whether I take those steps alone, I'm going to keep going. And I'm going to keep saying, you know what? I believe we deserve better. I do believe that we deserve to be heard in a safe place as families. And it needs to change. We need to feel... I go to the Calgary hospital with my daughter for her treatment. That's actually where we started her treatments because they wouldn't do it here. And they kept flat out refusing us. So finally, somebody else told me we got on, and thank you to that family for calling me like they were like I mean, right there. It was awesome. The support from our community is phenomenal. So headed out to Calgary. The atmosphere is so different. The respect for you as a person, as a mother with your child. It was just a whole different atmosphere altogether. And I mean, yes, they've got their flaws, and yes, there's a lot of controversy, things they can't speak up on. My therapist told me he basically can't do his job. I went in to go see him, and after I had a meeting with everybody, saying to them that it's been recognized a lot of my mental health issues are due to what I've been battling through the system. And I said, I'm okay. For the amount of crap that I've been through, I think that saying that I should be able to say a system. After everything I've watched my daughter go through, Mother's Day last year, I corrected all the hospital errors. I left my daughter suffering from 1 o'clock in the morning till 1 o'clock in the afternoon when I showed up, struggling to breathe, sweating, clammy, never called me. She was struggling. I fixed their problem that day. And it's not acknowledged. Those things are not acknowledged. Elisa, would you mind covering our break? My worker nearly dropped you to the ground when he heard that. And I'm like, yeah, I told you this. I told you before we came in, they will ask to cover the break. And they did. Cover their nurses' breaks even. Medical parent, 24 hours a day, 24/7 up. Alarms go off in the middle of the night, you're running. Your staff calls in sick, you're doing that 32 hours straight till you do get the next nurse. Sometimes you don't have a nurse for a couple days. And then you go to the hospital and you get asked, can you cover their break? I know you're short staffed and all. My hands are pretty tight too. I know what it's like to be exhausted, wear down, run down. But the difference between you guys wearing your scrubs and the difference between me who hung my scrubs up, you got people behind you, a team. And when you make one of those teams, you got more of those teams. Then I have to deal with that. Me. And then there's Hugo. And we're both trying to figure our stuff out from everything that we've been through and all the trauma that we've recognized and everything that has been painful and hurtful, because this is somebody that we have loved all these years and that we have strongly advocated for. And then you have people, oh, his wife's probably on a date. Well, maybe I am. So be it. I've been through hell and back. And if I am, what's it to you? What's it to you if I go and I pick up my life at this point? Because I'd love to see you all step into my shoes and survive what I've survived through and say that it's going to be okay. Or that this is normal. Or, most people tell me they wouldn't even make it through what I've been through. They wouldn't even know where they would have ended up. When you survive through what I've survived through as a child, being a suicidal survivor, my daughter diagnosed with a terminal diagnosis, my son getting hit with cancer, a brain bleed, losing your home, your daughter's disability van, your family, your dog, and my country song at this point. And at this point, I can choose to go rock bottom with it. Or I can choose to say, for those that are struggling, you can walk with me through this as we advocate to get our family back together, as we advocate to rebuild. Like I said, it's going to be peaceful rage. You'll see my good days of what I embrace, of what I can embrace, of what we tend to forget to embrace. We're also city life and whatnot. And like I said, everybody's going to have views. Everybody's going to have opinions. But, you know, if you're going to be a Trump supporter, how are you going to uphold your country if you're saying that people are releasing their bowels or recovering from a bowel release and, oh, their wife went on a date? And I'm sorry, but was that really highly intelligent during these times? And proving a point of why I don't want to support Trump at this point. And that's my opinion, and that's why I don't. I want to be able to still be able to look at our neighbors and recognize them as an upholding country, as they always have been, and be able to say that these are our respectful neighbors and that we can be the same. And sometimes it's not always going to be that way. We're going to be loud and everybody wants to be the tough guy and everybody wants to be the leader or whatever. Everybody wants a part of power. Everybody wants to have empowerment. Be something important. Rise to the top. We all got a ladder. Nobody wants to teach anymore. Nobody wants to learn anymore. Nobody wants to slow down and take time and pause. That's what we do need to do. And we need to recognize what we are doing for humanity on so many levels, in so many ways. So we're not feeling like a burden when we do speak up and advocate for what our children do need. Our roots can say anything to criticize me, but tomorrow could be your child on life support, walking across the street, making a wrong decision. And then your child has fallen into that process of what I'm dealing with right now. And I can have them all look at me. I've got all the eyes and ears on me right now, looking at me to see how I'm going to behave. And I have to act like Martha Stewart to get my kids back, is what I was told by one of the duty councils, actually. I had a lawyer in the beginning, and then I fired that lawyer. And it was his duty council, his mentor. The duty council was my lawyer's mentor. My lawyer was his mentor, Anyways. And so I was told, in order to get my kids back, I need to act like Martha Stewart. In society, I'm being told you need to be yourself. You need to accept yourself. You need to love yourself. But under our scaled court systems, I'm being told I need to act like Martha Stewart. So I want you all to think about that. In our justified system, and I said it again, sorry, I don't even think it's a justified system anymore. I don't know how I can get slapped on the hand for saying it when the courts can't even recognize what they've done to my children, to my family at this point, what the children, Stollery, themselves have done to families. How is that justice? How is this okay? Because their charting says it's okay, but the hypocrisy of CFS themselves. Hugo's saying something about but basically it's brutal for what we are going through. And it is criminal if you do actually investigate and take a whole look around at the folder. And I have met a long time ago with one of the NDPs, Rachel Notley, who said our foster care actually suffers because there are a lot of files that have been shut down improperly, a lot of deaths not looked at with adequacy, died injustively, actually, without justice, because there's no one there to speak up for them. A lot of the families, you go into these centers, there's really nobody there for their kids. Go into a senior home, nobody really there, because nobody cares to do the care anymore. It's too much work. Oh, they're being cared for. They're in a facility. They're being looked after. They're happy. My daughter's not. I'm going to tell you that. She's been crying. She's saying that she's worried. She doesn't feel safe. She's at the point last week where she's crying almost every day. She's trying to hold back her tears and trying to be strong. Almost 17 years old and being denied access to go home. expressing this to her lawyer, even her lawyer acknowledging this and acknowledging this to me. It's a torture. It's a game of torture. I sat in the courthouse. I was April last time we were in the courthouse, and I'm having it out with the lawyer, and he's like, can I talk to you? And I'm like, no, I'm like, I was just so overwhelmed in the courthouse. Just that alone is so much pressure on a family. So I said no, but then finally he said, Lisa, look, she wants to go home. She told me your daughter said, and I finally started listening to him. It's affecting all of us at this point. People that see, and people who want to do their jobs but are being told not to, or that they can't, or we're not recognizing what's important at this point. Put me under supervised visits and bring my daughter back. Have supervised visits in my home. But at least she'll be safe. And I don't care if I have to live like I'm in a prison. But she needs to be safe at this point. I've asked for even that much. Hugo and I are working on ourselves as well. And yes, we all need to be in a good place. And that's what we're trying really hard to work on. But how can we go into a good place when there's no trust anymore? That we can't trust when we call for our child? To even get truthful knowledge. So where do you begin to trust at that point? So food for thought. Our own systems say I have to act like Martha Stewart in order to get my kids back. Is that fair? I know I've got to clean up in my life to do. I know I got to continue therapy. I got to put my head on my shoulders. I know I've got things I've got to work on. I know I have faults. But to tell me I have to be somebody I'm not in order to get my kids back under a justified process of things doesn't make sense to me anymore. To tell the court, well, we're missing some facts. And the court doesn't even acknowledge it. What facts are we missing? Why wasn't that question asked? Because those facts are pretty important right now. A lot of things that are not in the best interest of my child at this point. So I got to ask you to ask yourselves, what care does your family members have or receive? And if you weren't there, what would have it been like for them? What will it be like for you? Who will take care of you when you hit your cane stage and strollers and all that stuff? Because there's a lot of people right now, I can tell you, that need help, that need suffering, and we need a better system. We need a better direction. So they'll take those notes, and it's okay. After they've been adjusted at after 11:25, legal documents, and they can't get past the charting. It's the biggest problem. Their own lawyer on their side, not mine, was hitting the paper and saying, it's the charting. We can't get past the charting. We can't break the charting. I want you all to take time, watch Take Care Maya, Netflix. Really watch it. Watch Extraordinary Measures too. You'll kind of understand a little bit more of what families feel or go through. It kind of gives you a sense. Not a full understanding, but a sense. Take Care Maya on Netflix. Extraordinary Measures. And take everything one step at a time. Thank you for all the subscribers, for watching our channel. If you watch it all the way to the end, wow. Thank you. And thank you for just taking the time to help us have a new direction in our life and something to follow. So I hope that we can, if somebody's struggling, so we can relate to someone, those kinds of things, and just as one step at a time, guys. So again, hit like, subscribe, share, and we will answer questions best that we can, and we will go through ups and downs. There's going to be things people like or don't like. We're all different. We all have views. We all have opinions. We're all people. We're all individuals. And we have to understand that individuals all have differences sometimes. So take care. And again, thank you.